"You are really fascinating." "No, really, you are. I remember saying it when the cameras were off, and I'll say it again. You're kind, you're generous, you uplift women. It's rare, and whoever shares life with you is truly fortunate." These were Marlo Thomas's words. Genuine, raw, heartfelt. And once upon a time, Marlo wasn't just a star. She was the heartbeat of a movement. Her presence in That Girl lit up millions of living rooms. She wasn't just Anne-Marie. She was a whisper of revolution in a world still hesitant to change. She dared to exist outside the mold. And in doing so, she made space for every woman who came after her. But today, the conversation around Marlo has shifted, and not for the reasons that should matter. At 87, it's not her groundbreaking advocacy or decades of charity work that people are debating. It's her face, not her impact, but her appearance. And in this cruel twist of public memory, the woman who once represented fearless independence is being talked about not for the lives she saved, but for the way time has touched her. Her youthful glow has faded, replaced by signs of surgeries that couldn't hold back age. And suddenly, that's all people seem to see. Isn't it heartbreaking that the same society that once praised her bravery now turns its gaze to criticize her transformation? But while the world frets over tightened skin and a nose that doesn't look quite the same, it forgets that this very woman helped raise billions for children suffering from illnesses no one dared confront. The world overlooks how, behind the fading glamour, stands a woman who turned her spotlight toward those who had none. In an age obsessed with youth, Marlo's real beauty was never about her looks. It was about her grit, her heart, and her fight for meaning. She was born on November 21, 1937 in Detroit, but she might as well have stepped out of a spotlight. Real name, Margaret Julia Thomas, belonged to a girl who was never destined for the ordinary. The daughter of famed comedian Danny Thomas, Marlo grew up not just around fame but inside it, bathed in applause, laughter, and the glittering illusions of Hollywood. But inside that golden world was something no camera captured: absence. While the world got Danny Thomas the entertainer, Marlo got an empty seat at the dinner table, nights without bedtime stories, and a childhood spent waiting. She adored her father, but she never felt she had all of him. He was a man pulled in 1,000 directions, and for a little girl, that meant growing up with a deep ache, the feeling of being second to everything else. She once confessed she always felt like she was competing with the world for his attention and never winning. From the outside, she had everything, but on the inside, she wrestled with the invisible weight of needing to be more, to be better, to be exceptional, just to be seen. Perhaps that's what set her path ablaze. That longing turned into purpose. That emptiness became her drive. Danny Thomas, she inherited more than a famous name. She inherited the fire of compassion. She grew up watching her father pour himself into St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, into helping others, into believing that success was meaningless without service. Though he missed the quiet moments of her youth, he gave her a louder gift: how to make her life count. When the time came, Marlo Thomas didn't coast on her father's legacy. Could have, easily. But instead of diving straight into Hollywood where the Thomas name might have cracked doors open, she went where no one cared about who your father was: the theater. She chose the hardest path: small roles in off-Broadway productions, obscure TV gigs, auditions that led to nowhere. She took every rejection, every brush off, and turned it into fuel. This wasn't about fame, it was about identity. Then in 1966, everything changed. A show was casting for a bold new idea: a single woman living on her own in New York, chasing dreams without waiting for a man. Producers were looking for someone fresh, someone brave. Marlo wasn't just right for the role, she was the role. And That Girl premiered. It didn't just entertain, it shifted culture. America had never seen a woman like Anne-Marie on television before. She wasn't somebody's wife or mother. She was the main character of her own life. And that short dress she wore through Manhattan, that wasn't fashion. That was a statement. The show was a smash. Marlo became the face of a new kind of woman: bold, independent, funny, and strong. But few knew she was also shaping the show behind the scenes, helping to write scripts, design costumes, and most importantly, protect its message. When producers pushed for Anne-Marie to end up married in the final episode, Marlo pushed back. She wanted to show that a woman's story didn't have to close with a ring, and she won. Fifth season ended. It wasn't because ratings dropped. It was because Marlo said it was time. She could have ridden that fame for years, but she knew if she didn't move forward, she'd be frozen in that one role forever. So she walked away. It's when she made her boldest choice. Instead of playing another sweet, lovable girl next door, Marlo pivoted. She launched Free to Be, You and Me, a project that dared to challenge gender roles, encourage emotional honesty in boys, and show girls they could be anything. At a time when few in Hollywood even dared to utter the word equality, Marlo created something that would outlive her career and reshape how children saw themselves. No one expected it from a sitcom star, but that's exactly why it worked. Marlo didn't just leave behind a character, she left behind the mold altogether. And in doing so, she gave permission to generations of women and children to believe they too were free to be themselves. He vanished into the character like mist into the night. It was 1986, and Marlo Thomas stunned audiences with a role no one expected. Gone were the bright colors and cheerful charm of her earlier fame. Instead, she re-emerged in Nobody's Child as a fragile, haunted soul. An institutionalized woman lost for decades within her own silence, her once vibrant persona stripped to the bone. Marlo wore the anguish like a second skin. Vacant eyes, messy hair, and a ghost of the smile people remembered. Fans did a double take. Was this the same woman from that girl? And yet, within every gesture, every quiet breath, she carried a performance so visceral it carved a permanent place in the hearts of critics. The Emmy she received was just a token. She truly gained was something deeper. Validation as an actress who could embody truth, even when it wasn't pretty. That moment rewrote everything. Slowly, Marlo rebuilt, not with blockbuster hits or dramatic headlines, but through layered performances that revealed the actress beneath the icon. You may remember her as Rachel Green's mother on Friends, a blend of lightness and complexity. In The Practice, Frasier, Ugly Betty. Each guest role brief, but unforgettable. She didn't need center stage. She needed space to leave a mark. And on Broadway, she returned to the rawness she loved, choosing emotionally rich stories like The Shadow Box and Love, Loss, and What I Wore. Roles that dug deep. Roles that reminded the world hadn't dimmed her. If anything, it had sharpened her. What drove Marlo wasn't the chase for fame or the pressure to dazzle. It was purpose. It was stepping into the light at a stage or a children's hospital and offering something real. In every campaign she championed, in every book she penned, was one consistent message: use your light, not for applause, but to help others find their way. And that's exactly what she did. Quietly, persistently, without spectacle. There's a certain kind of heroism in choosing kindness over recognition. In a world hungry for headlines, Marlo chose legacy instead. But even that fire, even that purpose, was no match for what came next. Because just when the spotlight had shifted and the applause had faded, Marlo Thomas found something she never saw coming: love. The kind that doesn't arrive with fireworks or red carpet glamour. The kind that sneaks in during a quiet TV interview and never leaves. It was 1977, and she was booked on The Phil Donahue Show. Before the cameras even rolled, something shifted in the air. Phil, with his silver hair, Irish charm, and gentle curiosity, looked at her like she was the only person in the room. And for a woman who had never believed in love at first sight, Marlo suddenly wasn't so sure anymore. Sparks flew. Not the kind that light up a scene, but the kind you feel in the stillness between words. And the live audience noticed. He blushed. She stammered. The cameras cut. A conversation began that would quietly change both of their lives. Phil had lived a full life. Marriage, 5 children, a towering media career. He wasn't a man looking to be saved. He carried his scars with grace. Marlo, used to her independence, hadn't planned on becoming someone's wife, let alone a stepmother. Their first date was far from perfect. Clumsy, she was guarded. But there was honesty in the awkwardness. They weren't playing roles. They were just two people willing to risk knowing one another. By 1980, they said, "I do," not in front of flashbulbs, but in quiet certainty. And though it wasn't easy, stepping into a family that had its own rhythm, its own history, Marlo didn't force her way in. She listened. She stayed patient. Slowly, respect grew, and with it, love. Magazine spreads, no extravagant public displays. Hands held when no one was looking. Just trust, earned in the little moments, tough ones, the tender ones. In Hollywood, Where love stories often burn out as fast as they flare, theirs endured. As Phil aged and stepped away from public life, Marlo remained beside him. Not as an actress, but as his anchor. And asked years later how they made it last, Marlo gave the kind of answer only someone who's lived it could give. Maybe giving up a little freedom, she said, is a different kind of freedom. But just when life seems to reach a peaceful rhythm, the world has a way of testing it. The aging process, the one truth no star can outshine, came for Marlo too. Once celebrated as the face of a generation, her features began to shift. The sparkling eyes dimmed slightly, lines etched across her face. And in an industry where women are judged under a merciless lens, whispers grew louder. Photographs emerged. Her face tighter, her skin altered. Perhaps by choice, perhaps by pressure. Suddenly, the praise turned cold. Headlines blared, "Unrecognizable at 87. Former admirers debated her looks like she was no longer a person, just an image that had let them down. Some mourned her transformation, others judged it, but Marlo remained quiet. In a rare moment of candor, she said only this: "I do what helps me feel like myself." No apologies, just a quiet truth. Because maybe the real changes on her face weren't from age or procedures, but from bearing a lifetime of others' expectations. When society insists a woman must never change, it forgets that real beauty was never skin deep. The criticism, the distorted photos, the cruel headlines. Marlo Thomas kept going. Slower now, quieter, but always forward, because beneath it all, she still burns with the same fire. And maybe that's the most powerful thing about her. Never needed to be perfect. She just needed to be real. Doesn't shine with the same blinding brilliance she once did. But there's something in Marlo Thomas's expression now that carries even more weight. A calm resilience, the kind born from a life lived with both purpose and pain. Child, Marlo watched from the shadows while her father, the legendary Danny Thomas, poured his heart into building St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Back then, she couldn't fully grasp the magnitude of what he was trying to build. What she saw was the seat left empty at family dinners, the missed birthdays, the quiet goodbyes before another fundraising trip. But over time, clarity replaced confusion. Realized he wasn't leaving them behind. He was building something that could outlast all of them. That revelation didn't just change her, it defined her. Annie passed in 1991. Marlo didn't just inherit a legacy. She embraced a sacred duty. While others may have stepped away or passed the responsibility to someone else, Marlo stepped forward because she had to, but because she chose to. Because she knew that the mission of St. Jude was never meant to be finished, only carried forward, child by child, life by life. And she did more than just carry it. She expanded it. For over 3 decades, she became its most devoted champion, turning every platform she had, her books, her albums, her TV appearances, into a way to raise both awareness and funds. But she never did it for the spotlight. What mattered to Marlo were the children, warriors fighting the hardest battles, their parents clinging to hope like a lifeline. She met them not as a celebrity, but as someone who understood what it meant to miss a father, to crave presence, and to channel that longing into something bigger than pain. It's here that Marlo's story takes a turn few expected. While leading one of the most influential charity movements in the country, she was also fiercely advocating for something else: freedom. Alongside Gloria Steinem, she co-founded the Ms. Foundation for Women, challenging systems, shattering silences, and demanding change during a time when those actions often led to ridicule rather than applause. But Marlo knew that silence never moved mountains. She knew that to change a system, someone had to be brave enough to speak loudly, persistently, and unapologetically. Even now, at 87, Marlo doesn't retreat into the comfort of past achievements. She still shows up at charity galas, on television, in social media feeds, delivering messages of hope, resilience, and courage, because she owes it to anyone, but because she believes the work is never finished. And perhaps that's what makes her story so compelling. In a world obsessed with noise, Marlo became a quiet force. She never demanded attention, but she earned something far deeper: respect. She and Phil Donahue, her partner of over 44 years, now live a quieter life. Their home isn't a rotating door of Hollywood elites. It's a place of calm, reflection, and shared history. They don't chase relevance. Lived through enough to know that true peace comes not from applause, but from knowing you did something that mattered. Marlo's rare public appearances are no longer framed in red carpet glitz. Moments of quiet strength. When she walks into a fundraiser, it's not her fame that speaks first. It's the decades of devotion etched into every word she speaks, every hand she holds, every story she shares. And behind that gentleness lies a staggering financial impact. Marlo Thomas's financial world isn't just anchored in Hollywood checks. It's rooted in a deeply strategic use of wealth. For years, she invested in real estate properties across Los Angeles and Connecticut, including a private estate designed for seclusion and serenity. She's owned vintage Mercedes-Benz convertibles and custom luxury SUVs, and her taste in watches leans toward timeless elegance, like her signature Cartier tank. Business-wise, Marlo has launched multiple best-selling books and partnered in media ventures focused on children's education and advocacy. She also co-produced philanthropic TV specials, many of which raised millions for St. Jude. Insurance portfolio reflects her cautious nature, policies protecting her health during demanding charity tours, and asset protection plans for her estate and philanthropic initiatives. One lesson her financial path teaches, it's this: invest in your purpose, protect what matters most, and use your platform not just to profit, but to serve. Marlo's journey didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. It evolved, from being the face of that girl to becoming a voice for millions who felt unseen. She redefined what legacy truly means. Her life became the proof that you don't need flashing lights to change the world. You need unwavering belief in something bigger than yourself. Glitz of her past is still there, but now it flickers quietly behind her, no longer center stage. And yet, she is far from forgotten. Her influence pulses through the halls of St. Jude, through every child whose life was saved, every family who found hope when all else failed. She exists in the whispered thank yous of mothers who got to take their children home, in the ink of the letters sent by survivors who still remember her name. There's a kind of magic in someone who lives not to be remembered, but to give others something they'll never forget. That's what Marlo did. That's what she continues to do. Her story invites us to ask ourselves, are we living just to be seen? Or are we living to truly matter? Maybe the spotlight fades, the cheers dim, and time leaves its mark. There are some lights that don't go out, simply move from center stage to the corners of the world where they're most needed. And Marlo Thomas, quietly and beautifully, became one of them. If you've ever wondered whether a single life can make a lasting difference, look no further. And if you've ever questioned your own ability to do the same, maybe this is your sign. Maybe Marlo's light can spark something in you too. And there you have it. From comedy clubs to political debates and luxury mansions, Larry the Cable Guy's journey has been anything but ordinary. From making us laugh with Get Her Done to surprising us with his serious side, he's lived a life full of twists, turns, and jaw-dropping bank statements. This story had you hooked? Go ahead and smash that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got more wild celebrity tales coming your way. Next up, a Hollywood icon with a secret past you won't believe. Until then, remember, Larry may have played the fool, but behind that flannel shirt was a man who turned laughter into a legacy. Get her done, and stay curious.